that.
Hi, I am Peter Sagal, and I am the host of Constitution USA with Peter Sagal, which will be on PBS nationally this May. It is a show about the U.S. Constitution, how it is lived today, how it affects us today. Most people talk about the Constitution, but they usually do so in the context of this sort of wonderful historical document that was handed down to us and has these large, overweening principles like freedom and liberty, which usually means the freedom to do whatever the person talking wants to do. But in fact, the Constitution was created by real people who were politicians. I know, it's almost a slander to say so. And more importantly, it's being lived out and enacted by real people, politicians and otherwise, today in the 21st century, 225 years after it was ratified. So I get on my motorcycle in the show, and we travel all over the country, 26 states, from Northern California to Southern Texas. And we talk to people about the Constitution, about what it means to them, and how it is affecting their lives directly, including some people whose lives are being very profoundly affected by constitutional debates. Well, among the people we talk to are, for example, the plaintiff in the case that was recently accepted for the Supreme Court, a case now called Hollingsworth v. Perry. Perry is Chris Perry. She wants to marry her partner, Sandy. And whether or not they have a constitutional right to get married as same-sex partners will be decided by the U.S. Supreme Court this year. We talked to a man named Gary Marbut in Montana who thinks that the U.S. government has no right under the Constitution to regulate guns as long as the guns don't move beyond state lines, because all the Constitution gives the federal government is the power to regulate interstate commerce, he says, nothing about within states. We talked to the Lopez family of Tyler, Texas, who were, as children, given in a Supreme Court case the constitutional right to a public education, even though they were undocumented immigrants, and are now happy and successful, productive members of society in Tyler. We talked to Minnie Jean Brown Trickey, who was one of the Little Rock Nine, one of the 9 African-American students whose right to attend an unsegregated high school was defended by the 101st Airborne in the 1950s in Little Rock. And we also talked to one of the men who was a young soldier, escorted her into school past the screaming mobs who wanted the African-American kids out of that all-white school. We talked to a man whose parents' house was torn down because of a Supreme Court case called Kelo versus New London. People who have lived out constitutional issues, suffered or benefited from our Constitution and the legal rulings that attach to it in their lives. But what people don't understand, what I really didn't understand, is this is what's created America. Everything ranging from my right to say what I'm saying into this camera, to somebody else's right to carry a gun into Starbucks, to other people's right to marry the people they love. These are all very intimate, powerful, personal things that are affected and created by the Constitution. In fact, every single law that controls our lives, and laws do control our lives, they limit what we can do, they allow us to do other things, derives from our Constitution. The Constitution created a mechanism for making law, and it created a mechanism for the United States of America. I mean, if you think about it, the United States is the body, the organism, that the DNA of the Constitution created. And it's hard to understand sometimes how it translates, but it's all there. Everything about our country right now, from the national parks to the factories to the roads, derives from the Constitution and constitutional processes. And until you understand the Constitution and how it works, it's impossible to understand America.